Hello everyone! For this lesson we're going to be learning how to make a three-dimensional cylinder, in particular a cake, because we're currently studying artist Wayne Thiebaud. Now Wayne Thiebaud was a pop artist who was made famous by his cakes and pies, and we're going to be taking our cue from him and creating a cake for our art today. Now, what we're going to do eventually, we are going to be drawing the cake, taking a slice out of the cake, and then we will be coloring the cake to enhance the 3D effect. I have a separate video on how to color the cake, so I'm going to just focus in this video on how to draw the cake so that it looks three-dimensional. When you're finished with your cake drawing, it will look something like this. So we'll be drawing the cake. You can add whatever decorations to the cake that you'd like. We can add a plate, and we can add a line behind the cake for the table. The first step is going to be to make a cylinder for the cake. So we'll be making an oval for the top and coming down for the cylinder. Now there are some important things to keep in mind when we are making a cylinder. So a cylinder is a form, it's three-dimensional. This is what I see some students doing with their cylinder, and it kind of looks like a muffin top because it looks like a cupcake that just kind of overflowed on the top. So when you are making your cylinder, you need to come all the way out to the very end of the oval like this, and not come in, all right? So that is one no. Another no is I see a lot of students, they'll get the top correct, they will get the sides correct, and then they'll just make it straight across for the bottom. The reason they do that is because they're thinking that it has to be flat to sit on a table, which is true, but if you would see through a glass that you would sit on the table, yes, the glass is flat on the bottom, but you would see the bottom of the cylinder through the glass. So yes, it is flat, but when you are looking at it from an angle like we'll be looking at our cake, you have to have this be curved like the top, right? And the further away from your eye level it goes, the deeper that curve actually gets. So when you see something like this, you might be able to tell that it's not correct, but you might not know why. Another thing that I see is when you are doing your cake, we're going to be looking at the cake so that you can put a straight line through the top of the oval. So the bottom oval has to be straight also. So you don't want to have an oval where you would have it straight across and then the bottom oval be crooked. So that would be making your cake look a little bit lopsided. So that's a no, that's a no. This is how to draw it correctly. So I'm going to take you through the steps for doing your cylinder correctly, and then we'll turn it into a cake with the slice taken out of it like this. Now the first thing that you're going to do is draw an oval for the top of the cake. I'm going to help you out in class a little bit by giving you an oval pattern. If you are at home and you don't have an oval pattern, you could make one for yourself. Practice making your ovals over and over, and when you get a good one, then you can trace over it with a dark marker so that you can slip it underneath your paper and place it wherever you want it, and then you can trace it. Make sure though that it is straight across. You don't want to have your oval like this where it's kind of slanting upward. So just check it out and make sure that your oval is straight across. So I'm just going to place my oval under my paper so that it is straight across. So I'll do it first, then I'll place my paper over top. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and trace my oval. I just find this very helpful when I'm first doing my cake, to already have the oval already figured out. All right. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is to make some lines that go down from the cake. If you want to use a ruler, you can. You can use anything that could be used for a straight edge. So just to illustrate that, I'm just going to use the edge of a paper here. So I'm just going to fold it and just use the edge of a paper. And I'm going to come down, not quite to the bottom. I'm going to stop before I get to the bottom of my page. All right, so I've left a couple of inches here. And I'm going to go on the other side the same way. If you have a ruler, you can use the ruler to do this. But I'm just illustrating that you don't need a ruler. All right. Try to make these so that they stop about even. But as I said, we are not going to just connect those. That's not what we want to do. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to figure out where the center would be. And I'm going to move a little bit to the left and put a little mark, and a little bit to the right of center and make a little mark. And this time I'm going to be coming down again, except I'm going to come down farther than this. So you could freehand draw that if you're good at it. Again, if you want to use a ruler or a paper that has been folded, then you may do that. You might want to mark where you want to stop, because once you have that paper on there, it's a little bit hard to tell. So I want to stop about right there. So I'll come straight down. And these should end very similar. If they don't, just pull it down wherever it needs to be. So these outer ones are shorter, the inner ones are longer. The cylinder, as I said, is curved. So that is why we made these longer than these, because if we made them all even, then again, it would be straight across, and that is not what we want. We want a curve like a smile. Now I'm going to take this line and connect them with a curved line that curves upward. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Curve upward. And we have the first part of our cylinder. I didn't draw it the whole way across because we would just be erasing that out anyway. So there's really no need to put that in. Now I did have a little tiny light mark for the center here, so I'm just going to go up from that, and I'm going to mark the center of my oval. I'm just going to put a little dot there to mark the center of the oval. I can then connect this to that dot. Again, if you feel like you need a straight edge or ruler, you can do that. I'm just doing it freehand. And then I don't need this anymore. So I'm just going to erase that out so I don't get confused with too many lines. And it's easy to erase out right now. So I'll just erase it. Okay, and you're just still seeing this underneath, so I'll take that out. The next thing that I want to do is I want to come down from this top line, just kind of come straight down, and see how this is like an upside down V. I want to put an upside down V right here as well. So I'm coming down and I'm going to stop about the same distance that I had from the front of my oval to the middle. That's where I want to come up from, like where the bottom of the oval here would be, or the cylinder would be. I would come up about that far. So I'm just going to kind of like compare, make a little mark. So this will be an upside down V, and this one should be about the same. Again, you can use your straight edge if you want, or you can just draw up. All right. Now I need to connect this dot and this dot. So I'll put on my straight edge again, and I will connect those. So now I have a cake with the slice out of it, but I don't have the layers for the icing, which I would like to add for this. And that's really easy to do. You don't go straight across. That would not work. All right, what you have to do is, see how this is a V? You have to do another V or a couple of more V's, depending on how many layers you would like to have. So I think I will put 2 layers on mine. So I'm going to look at this line here, and I'm going to make a mark where I want the layers to be. So I'm just kind of making marks that are equally spaced apart. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So wherever this mark is, I'll come across and make one here. Wherever this mark is, I'll come straight across and make one here. Now I'm not connecting these, all right? What I have to do is make a V. I'm mirroring this V. So I'm going to go up and back down. All right. And again, these are like arrows. So this next V, and the bottom, they should all be pretty similar. If I want to add icing, I'm going to be making this a double line so that I can color this in later for whatever icing I want to put in there. So I'm just making these lines double. All right, so I have my cake. I have the slice taken out. I have it divided up for my 3 different layers of cake and 2 layers of icing. The next thing I want to do is I want to add a plate under my cake so it doesn't look like it's just sitting on the table. So I'm going to come about halfway up on my cake, or maybe a third of the way up. Don't start here though. Start a little bit up on your cake, and it's just like making an oval. Now my oval is going to actually have to go off of the page. So I'm going to come here, go down, and off of the page. So the next thing I need would be my table, and my table has to be above my plate. So I'm going to come up a little further. I could come up really far if I want. I don't like to cut everything directly in half on my page, so I'm going to come up, not halfway, but I'm going to come up a little bit further than halfway. And I'm going to go from my cake to the end of my paper. Don't go through your cake, all right? So now I have a wall, I have the table, I have the plate, and I have my cake. And at this point, I'm ready to decorate the cake. The important thing to remember is we need to make this look like it's on a curve. So I like to put guidelines before I decorate the cake. So for instance, if I'm making something like this on my cake, I don't just start drawing it. I make a guideline for it. So lightly, this has to, see how this curved up? This has to curve up as well. So I'm just making a guideline, and I'm curving upwards. I'm not drawing this really hard, but I am putting those marks. Do not do this. This is not correct, okay? Do not go straight across like that. That, you can see something looks off. And the reason it does look off is it's not supposed to be straight. It's supposed to be curved up. So do not draw straight out. That's not correct. So I'm going to erase that. I'm going to make sure on this side it curves up to the right towards this corner of the page. On this side it curves up to the left towards this corner of the page. So I'm just going to put my guidelines very lightly. I'm drawing these guidelines. Okay, so you're mimicking this curve the whole way, however many rows of decorations you're going to have. Now that I have the guidelines on there, I can draw right over top of it with whatever design that I choose to put on my cake. So if I'm doing that here, the slice would be taken out. This would be just a continuation of this. So I'm just going to continue to do that design. And I'm drawing right over top of my guideline. I can always go back later after I go over this with marker. I can erase out those pencil lines that I don't need. So even if I'm doing something just as a line, I'm drawing right over top of the guideline. You could do something at the bottom of the cake. Oftentimes cakes have things like this at the bottom. You could do whatever you want on the top. I'll show you here in a minute a whole bunch of different ideas for how to do the top of your cake. So this isn't something that you have to do that I'm doing right now, but a lot of people ask me about how to do the icing that is around a lot of birthday cakes. So as you can see, I'm just making like a half of an oval the whole way around. So I get back to where I took the slice out, and now I'm going to go around again on the other side. And this actually ends up looking a lot like the icing they put around those birthday cakes. So first I go around the inside of the oval, and then I go around the outside of the oval. And then you can just add some marks so it looks like the cake decorating. And you can enhance this more when you color it. I'm just quickly doing some sketching with the pencil. All right. If you want to put candles or anything on the inside, you can do whatever you'd like. One thing I do want to say about candles, as in this cake here, if you do want to do candles, they would be straight up and down, not every which way. Unless that's a thing that you want to do just to make your cake look a little bit funny and funky, you can do that. But otherwise, you want to make your candles go straight up and down. And if you want to make them look lit, you can, or just put a little wick on there. If you do a candle that is a number, so like if I wanted the number 2 as a candle, it would just be straight up and down, right? Maybe it has a little thing that goes into the cake like that. All right, so everything's straight up and down, unless, as I said, you choose to make it look differently. But typically you put your candle straight down in your cake. At this point, you could go ahead and trace over all of your pencil lines once you're done with your decorations with a marker. So this one is one that has been all traced in marker and it's ready to be colored. As I said, I do have the coloring video done separately. So if you are all done with your cake and you have it all drawn and you have it all traced in the marker, then you can go ahead and play the second part of our cake and you can see how to color it and add the shading to really enhance the look that it is 3D. So before you go, I just want to show you some other cake ideas. As you can see, there are a ton of ways that you can make your cake. You could make like cherries and the icing dripping. This one has strawberries on it. This one has the birthday candles, and it has some little things on the top. You could make this all different color on the top if you want. This one has a swirl on the top. Another one with a swirl on top. Okay, just some other kinds of decorations here on the side of the cake. Another really fancy birthday cake, and one very similar to the one that I just did. All right, so I hope you have a lot of fun making your cake. I hope you learn a lot about how to make a proper cylinder, and just remember the do's and don'ts. Again, don't make a muffin top. All right, make sure that you come all the way to the end of your oval. Don't make it straight across on the bottom, and don't make the bottom crooked. All right, so make it like this one, and you'll have a lot of success. All right, have fun. Go draw your cake.